All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Arizona Cardinals, Mike LaFleur, official hire, Clint Kubiak to the Raiders, all 10 head coaches officially hired, or technically it's not official, but Mike LaFleur is going to be the head coach for the Arizona Cardinals. He spent, I think it was the last 3 years as the offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams. Obviously, the MVP is going to be, is it Matthew Stafford already? I don't think it's already been named. I think that's right before the Super Bowl. But Matt Stafford's the MVP. Puka Nakua, unanimous first team All Pro. Let's see here. I've got a bunch of fun statistics from Mike LaFleur. The way I would say, so I've thought of a couple of comparisons here. It reminds me of a little bit of Ben Johnson to the Chicago Bears. Obviously, Ben Johnson was like the coach to hire last year, and he was an offensive mastermind, and he was like what was it? I forget how many head coaches there were last cycle, but every team pretty much had interest in Ben Johnson, and Ben Johnson was very picky, and he decided to be the head coach for the Chicago Bears. But he was the Lions offensive coordinator and goes to be the Bears head coach. So division to division, or same division. Sean McVay has been the guy, he's the head coach for the Rams. So we'll get into Mike LaFleur's tenure in his career in a second, but very close to Sean McVay. So that's why it kind of reminds me of that, where, Rams to Arizona, Lions to Bears. But as far as like the actual play calling goes, and creativity and optimizing and scheme and all of that fun stuff, play calling, whatever, this one reminds me similar of like a Liam Cohn move, where I think Mike LaFleur is a very bright offensive mind, and players love him. Players love his offensive plays. And I even remember, so basically, I'll even get into it. I've got it somewhere around here. He's, by the way, the younger brother of Matt LaFleur, who I'm a Green Bay Packers fan. He's our head coach. So he spent 4 years with the San Francisco 49ers, mostly as the passing game coordinator under Kyle Shanahan, and then the last 3 years under Sean McVay. In between those two stints, he was the New York Jets offensive coordinator. Parted ways after 2 years, but Zach Wilson was his quarterback. But here's the thing. Players, the New York Jets players, they loved him, and fans loved him. Fans really liked Mike LaFleur when he was the offensive coordinator for the New York Jets. The New York Jets are the worst team in the NFL in the last since 2000, by far. Their win-loss record, their ratio is they're below 300. The only way that's good is if you're baseball, and we're talking batting averages. So my point is, the Jets have been a bad franchise, and he was the offensive coordinator for them. They did not do good, and Jets fans still liked him. So Mike LaFleur recently, last 3 years with the Los Angeles Rams as their offensive coordinator. The Rams offense, top 10 in most major offensive categories in all 3 seasons. The Rams have been good for the last 3 years. No more Jonathan Gannon. Haven't talked too much about that. Once again, Green Bay Packers fan here. So Jonathan Gannon is now my Green Bay Packers defensive coordinator, which I can't wait for. It appears as if maybe Jonathan Gannon is just more of a defensive coordinator, which is perfectly fine. But 15-36 in 3 years with Arizona. The franchise has made the playoffs just 6 times since relocating to Arizona in '88. LaFleur is going to be the 12th full-time coach in the desert, and none of the predecessors have lasted more than 6 seasons. Only Bruce Arians left with a winning record. So now it becomes, first off, I think, like I said, started this video off, I think it's a phenomenal hire. And now that we're maybe past a little bit as Mike LaFleur as a play caller and as a head coach, or I guess the jury's still out on being a head coach, but he's a good offensive mind, and so then we have to look at the offense. And what's interesting to Arizona is I see on what I have right here projected $10 million in cap. I think the official cap right now for this Cardinals team is $35.8 million. Maybe it's $35.4 million. Arizona's got money to spend, and they can even free up more money if they want to spend more money, which I'm sure they can do, or will do, I should say. Free agent-wise, I didn't really notice anything. I gave it a little bit of a look before I hopped on this video, and I did not notice any free agents that were all too dire. Jalen Thompson would maybe be the most pressing free agent, unrestricted free agent at safety. But like I was trying to get to, the whole thing is Kyler Murray in the offense, right? So I personally think Kyler Murray should play another season. I was just reading an article where they were like, yeah, Kyler's not playing for Arizona next season. So we'll see what Arizona does because their offseason's contingent on who they're doing, who they're going to get after Kyler. So we don't know what to say until they do that. I didn't know it was set in stone. I don't believe it's set in stone. In fact, I would imagine, and if you're a Cardinals fan, let me know down below, which, by the way, hit that like button, hit that sub button. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers eventually, so thank you for watching. But I would imagine if I asked the Arizona Cardinal fan right now, like, what do you think about Mike LaFleur? I'm sure they would be like, yeah, I liked it. I think he was probably the best guy we could have gotten. And if I said, do you want Kyler Murray to play another season? They'd probably say, I think all of them mostly would say, yeah, I'd give Kyler Murray another season, especially with Mike LaFleur. So the big thing for me with why did the Arizona Cardinals suck ass last season? Because they did. In Arizona, I take great pride in who I think is going to be good, especially. And I thought the Arizona Cardinals were going to be one of those 9-8s, 8-9s, 10-7, 7-10. Depends on the division, depends on Kyler, depends on health. But I think the Arizona Cardinals will be a pretty competitive team here. They'll be a playoff competitive team. It wasn't even close. If I'm not even mistaken, I don't know why these aren't in. If I'm not mistaken, they started the season pretty well, and then their injuries were so bad. I wish I had the chart, but there's a chart of like payroll. I don't think payroll was the word, but contracts. Think money contracts, and just like essentially all the way at the bottom of the list, aka the most healthy teams, Seattle and New England, they had like $15 million of cap on the injured reserve. Arizona was by far number one. So this Cardinals team was decimated. They did make a couple of trades. There's a couple of like, the defense is interesting because the defense is injured, but the floor needs to be raised a little bit. You've got Buddha, a lot of really intriguing rookies and youngsters, specifically Will Johnson, Walter Nolan, Denzel Burke from this past season. But Mike LaFleur is more of an offensive guy. I think Kyler's getting another season, and I don't know why you wouldn't. You've got Marvin Harrison Jr., who we need to see some nice things here in year 3, especially with a new play caller and a healthy QB. You've got Trey McBride, who's already by far a top 5 tight end in the National Football League. You've got Michael Wilson, who was operating as a wide receiver 1 in like the entire NFL from a fantasy perspective and from a statistical perspective, which Jacoby Brissett towards the end of the season. So you've got your star tight end in Trey McBride. You've got your supposed to be star wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr., and you've got more than a capable backup or slot guy in Michael Wilson. You got James Conner. You got Trey Benson. Both of those two cats were injured at the season. Huge reason, again, to why the Arizona Cardinals running back room was unbelievably injured. So I really just think this team was a little bit too hurt last year. Now, like I said, ceiling needs to get raised. Floor needs to get raised, obviously, but the ceiling also needs to get raised a little bit. So what makes this so intriguing to me is all those pieces I just mentioned, under the assumption of Kyler Murray is coming back, you've got the 3rd overall pick. So you got the cap, you got the quarterback, now you got the coach, you got the offensive weaponry, you've got the 3rd overall pick. So you're going to see Arizona, in my opinion, do two things, or one of two things. They're either going to just straight up take the best player available, or they're going to trade back later on, top 10, top 15, maybe even late first round pick, and just get a whole bunch of draft capital for this new regiment in charge in Mike LaFleur. I haven't really mocked, to be honest with you. I haven't really mocked this year, and I'll have to take a look at some mocks, and we're still a long way away from the NFL draft, and we'll also have a better idea of what they're going to do in the draft after free agency. But that's the twist I see is Kyler Murray, so quarterback, head coach, weapons, cap, draft pick, most importantly the coach, and I just don't think this is as bad of a job as everyone was making it seem. If I had to give like a grade of this, I think this is the definition of a B grade. There's upside, there's some low side, because we haven't seen this before. We haven't seen Mike LaFleur be a head coach at the National Football League level, but he's a Shanahan guy. He was with Sean McVay. He's been with a bunch of successful organizations. He's been with a bunch of successful coaches, Super Bowl teams, you name it. He's got all of the credentials. He meets all the criteria. So now we just see what they're going to do in the offseason. I've seen some stuff that maybe he wasn't treated that well. Basically, everyone's going for Clint Kubiak. And the last two teams who haven't hired a coach up until today were the Las Vegas Raiders and the Arizona Cardinals. And it seemed as if I actually am going to bring up a tweet here while I say this story, but the Cardinals wanted Clint Kubiak. Everybody wanted Clint Kubiak, and they just kind of made Mike LaFleur wait a little bit, which I don't really think that's just the way she goes. Clint Kubiak was the best name out there. So here we go. Ooh, I did want to throw this in. So Mike LaFleur is 38, by the way, 14 years of NFL coaching experience. Shanahan, McVay, we mentioned. He has been a part of two offenses that had MVP QB play. Matt Ryan in 2016 with the Atlanta Falcons, and then Matt Stafford this past season. 1,000-yard seasons. Devontae Freeman and Kyren Williams at running back. Debo, Julio Jones, Wilson, Puka 3 times, and George Kittle all had 1,000-yard seasons under Mike LaFleur. And this is what I was pulling up here. Here are the coaches that seemingly rejected the Cardinals. Harbaugh, Saleh, Hafley, Manor, and Kubiak. Kevin Stefanski, Mike McDaniel didn't even show interest. So the Cardinals always get made fun of on social media because they just haven't been a successful franchise, especially in the last few seasons. But this is a good hire, and I think they got it right. Gannon was more of a defensive guy, and Mike LaFleur is an offensive guy. So more modern, more creative, more innovative. I think this is very exciting time for the Arizona Cardinals, and to be honest with you, I don't know how it could have gone better. Maybe Clint Kubiak, but like I said, everyone was going for Clint Kubiak, so that's why I'm comparing him to Liam Cohn. I live in the Tampa Bay area, and Buccaneers fans were not happy. They were not thrilled, especially with the way the kind of Liam Cohn situation happened. But Liam went down to Jacksonville, up to Jacksonville, technically Tampa to Jacksonville is north, and turned that team. They had the quarterback, turned that team into a 13-4 squad after going 4-13. To be honest with you, like I keep saying, it feels a little bit similar to it. So thank you for watching. Hit that like button, hit that sub button. Let me know your thoughts on Mike LaFleur to the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals fans would love if you guys can chip in and give any of your opinions and thoughts down below. But thank you for watching. We'll see you soon. Peace.